everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. So today I thought it would be fun to bring you some fall book recommendations. So this is 7 books that I think are perfect to read during the fall time because they're just like spooky in vibe, or they take place in the fall, or they just have the right kind of feeling to them. I am super excited for the season. It's the season of my birthday. It's the season of, pretty colors and just beautiful photos, and so I'm super excited for fall, and I think you will enjoy all the books on this list. They are some of my all-time favorites as well, so I'm super excited to talk about them. So I've got 3 adult books on this list and then 4 YA books on this list, so let's buckle up and get into the recommendations. Alright, so this first book is one that is a must-read for fall, and that is If We Were Villains by Nanowrimo. I feel like this is just the perfect book for fall because it not only has like death and murder and that sort of thing and mystery to it, but it is also set at a school, so it has that sort of feeling of like back to school and that feeling of returning to academics and that sort of thing. But basically this is a dark academia book. It is set at a Shakespearean academy, so all the students there only do Shakespeare theater. But the book actually begins with our main character all over 10 years after he had attended this Shakespearean school, and he's being released from jail after a crime that he committed that we don't really know. And the detective from his case really wants to know what actually happened 10 years ago, and so he's like, come on, just like tell me. And so Oliver is sitting down and telling the detective the story, and so we flash back to 10 years ago when he was with his friends at the Shakespearean Academy, university school. It's called De Lecker Classical Conservatory, and the bulk of the story actually takes place in their 4th and final year at the school, and how the tensions sort of arise in their friend group and how it leads to some deadly consequences. One of the things I love about this is that it features a lot of like Shakespeare, obviously, so there are a lot of references to Shakespeare in different plays and actual like parts of plays that they actually act out in the book, which was super cool. And you're seeing how like the plays start to mirror what's happening in their story as well, and so that part was really interesting. I absolutely love anything with Shakespeare in it, so this was like a huge treat. But yeah, it is also just great for fall because you have that mystery, you have the murder, you also have like this chilling sense of tension between this group of friends, and you just want to know what's going to happen next. I feel like it's just like the perfect sort of cozy read to, pick up on a fall night. So highly, highly recommend. All right, the next book is by an author that I absolutely love. And to be honest, this one, it took me a little bit to get into, but it is such a fantastic book by the end. And that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So as you guys know, I love the Shadow and Bone series, the Six of Crows series. And this is Leigh's like first adult book. And I am impatiently waiting for the sequel to this book. But basically this is her adult novel. It is sort of a mystery, sort of a speculative fiction, and it feels a little bit like a dark academia too, but not completely. But basically this book follows our main character, Galaxy Alex Stern, who is this young 20-year-old girl who has been able to see ghosts since she was a child, and it's really formed part of her identity and who she is, but it's also caused her a lot of trouble. And she's gone through some really hard stuff and has dropped out of school and had, a long list of terrible boyfriends, and is the sole survivor of an unsolved multiple homicide. But when she wakes up in the hospital after surviving this homicide, she is given an impossible, opportunity to attend Yale. And the reason she's asked to attend Yale is because of her ghost-seeing ability. They want her to join something called the Ninth House at Yale, which is one of the secret society houses who actually oversees the other houses to make sure that their occult activities don't get out of control. And so Alex becomes one of these people of the Ninth House, and there is a major slow burn-ish romance in this. I feel like it is very, very, very small subplot, but it gives me life, and there are some really cool characters in this one, and just a really interesting way she's imagined the world and how the occult and supernatural sort of works into the real world and the real world politics, and also just the stuff going on at the school as well. I would also just be careful if you're going into this one because it does have triggers for sexual assault and rape, but it was so well done, I felt like, and just so incredible to read. And by the end I was just feeling so much for Alex and wanted her to succeed, and I'm really curious to see where it's going to go in the next book as well. So yeah, highly recommend. It's very, very spooky. There's ghosts in it and supernatural things going on and the mystery going on, and there's also just the element of it being set at Yale and in New Haven, and so you are in this setting, and she really describes it and gets into detail and, you know, into the history of the area. And so that part was really interesting. And I feel like the school setting as well just really gets you into that fall mood. But yeah, love this one and super excited to see where it's gonna go. All right, the next book that I want to talk about is one that I read actually quite recently, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelids. And this is another one that is sort of set at a university setting, and it was such a fun and interesting mystery. Basically, this follows our main character, Mariana, who is a group therapist, and she has gone through a lot of loss in her life. She has lost many of her close family and people in her life, and recently she's lost her husband as well. And the book sort of opens up with her niece actually reaching out to her and calling her because a murder has occurred on their campus and her friend has turned up dead and stabbed to death in some passionate murder. And so Mariana heads up to Cambridge, where her niece Zoe is attending school, to give her emotional support, but also to maybe delve into what went on with this mystery. And there are other sort of psychotherapists there on the case who she knows, and she ends up getting wrapped up into this case, and as things start to get worse and more crimes start to occur, she gets wrapped up into it. And her prime suspect is one of the professors at the school, who is a tragedy professor, and his name is Edward Fosca. And he seems to be like the perfect, charming American professor at this UK school who everyone seems to love and all the students seem to love. And he has like this group of girls who he has like a study group with, who are called the Maidens. And there's all this sort of like suspicion around him, at least in Mariana's eyes. And so she's just trying to figure out who actually did this and if it is indeed Edward Fosca. I really enjoyed this one. It is a fun mystery. It's really fast paced. It does have that sort of cozy vibe. It is set in the fall, I believe, and like at Cambridge University. So you're feeling that sort of like history of the area and also like the school vibe and also just like the spookiness of a murder mystery. And I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I know a lot of people compare this a lot to the author's other book, Silent Patient, and how they sort of compare. I think this one is still fun and great and like a cool mystery. I do think that one of the strong points of this book is that it involves a lot of like Greek mythology as part of the mystery, which I found really compelling because I love Greek mythology and I actually know a lot of Greek mythology because I studied a lot of it in school. So I feel like if that part hadn't been in the book, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. So sort of take this with a grain of salt. You may not enjoy it as much as I did, but I thought it was a lot of fun and a really cool mystery. All right, this next one is one of my all-time favorites, and I read it, I think in 2020, and it was one of my like favorite books of 2020, and I'm still waiting patiently for the next book to come out. But that book is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So this is a YA sort of contemporary fantasy. It is set in our real world, obviously, and it follows our main character, Bree, whose mother has recently passed away. And before that, Bree was planning to go to this pre-college program at this university, and her mother was sort of opposed to it, but she ends up going anyway after her mother's death. And what happens is that she gets sort of embroiled in this sort of secret society there called the Legendborn. And as she sort of gets wrapped up with them, she realizes that they might have some sort of connection to her mother's death. It seemed that her mother's death was like some sort of accident, but she thinks that there was something fishy going on. And so she's determined to sort of figure out what's going on and ingratiate herself more into the Legendborn. But what she learns is that the Legendborn are actually this like secret society of like people who believe that the Arthurian legends are real. So that King Arthur was real and that the Knights of the Round Table were real and that they had these like descendants and these lineages and lines that all, you know, come down to our present day people and the people who are in Legendborn. And they're sort of tasked with this mandate to protect humanity from like the supernatural and like the demons sort of crossing into our world. And it's really interesting, and it definitely feels a lot like the Shadowhunters from Cassandra Clare's books. So if you like those books, I would highly recommend this one because it has a very similar feel. But what I love about Legendborn is that it really connects Bree's heritage and ancestry as a Black girl and how her history sort of comes to head with the Arthurian history and with the people of Legendborn. And it's really, really interesting. I don't want to spoil anything, but y'all, it was just so, so good. And there's this aspect of Bree sort of reconnecting with her like ancestry and, you know, discovering her own type of magic. And I just absolutely loved it. Not only just like the way that the author imagined this entire concept of like, you know, the Arthurian legends come to life and, you know, these lineages and like the demon hunting stuff, but also just like Bree's own personal journey and story was just so compelling. But yeah, this is set in the fall. It starts when Bree is starting like a new year of school. I think she's in like 11th or 12th grade, and it has like those school vibes, that academic vibe, but also like that vibe of history coming to life. And it also has those spooky vibes as well, because you don't know when a demon is gonna attack or, you know, do something and who's gonna get killed and that sort of thing. So it was really, really great. It had some really great twists as well. And it also has a very interesting sort of love triangle situation, which I actually really, really loved because I love both of the guys, but there's one I like a little bit more, and I'm excited to see where it's gonna go because there were just some really crazy plot twists towards the end of this book that I just can't wait to see the repercussions of for the next book. All right, the next book is another YA sort of set at another academy, and that is Truly Devious by Marina Johnson. So this is one of my favorite YA mystery series. So this book is really cool because it involves sort of a mystery in the present day, but also one from 1936. So it's set at this place called Ellingham Academy, which was founded by Albert Ellingham in 1936. And it was meant to be this like wonderful place for students to just like let their minds go free and learn whatever they wanted and delve into any sort of subject. But shortly after the school opened in 1936, the wife and daughter of Albert Ellingham, so Iris and I think Alice, go missing. They get kidnapped, and it's this whole mystery. And when Iris ends up dead and Alice goes missing, the only thing left behind is this note from the kidnapper with a moniker that they've used called Truly Devious. And so it became one of these like crazy unsolved mysteries because no one really knows if Alice was alive or not, and to this day there continues to be some sort of reward for her return. And this book actually starts with our main character Stevie Bell in present day, who has been obsessed with the crime and the idea of Truly Devious, and has always been obsessed with Ellingham Academy, and has always been obsessed with like sort of true crime in general. And so she's determined to go to Ellingham Academy and sort of solve this mystery. And when she gets accepted, she goes off, and you know, she's finally free from like her parents who she doesn't agree with, and she goes off to this academy and is embroiled in sort of this mystery. But when a student at the school in present day actually turns up dead, another mystery is sort of on her hands. And so she's sort of trying to solve both mysteries. And the book is part of a series, so the like main mystery of Ellingham Academy sort of stretches over the 3 books, which is super, super interesting. And overall, it's just like a fantastic series. Like I loved the mystery. I loved how you can't really trust any of the characters. You don't know, you know, who of her classmates are like the bad guy. And it's set in the fall, you know, they're starting a new school year, and you just get that vibe of like being at a school in like this old place, and it just has like the perfect fall spooky vibes, which I loved. All right, the next book is a really fun one, and that is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. So this is actually a Sherlock Holmes retelling set in modern day with a female Sherlock Holmes. So instead we have Charlotte Holmes. And one of the cool things about this book is that it acts as if Sherlock Holmes was a real person and Watson was a real person. And so they have like their own descendants. And so the book follows like the descendant of Sherlock Holmes, Charlotte Holmes, and the descendant of James Watson, Jamie Watson. And so Jamie is actually going to this new prep school called Sherringford in Connecticut, and he knows that like Charlotte attends the school, and their families have sort of known each other for, you know, ever, but he's sort of steered clear from her because there's a lot of like rumors about her and all that. And so he shows up at Sherringford and is sort of enraptured by her and ends up sort of getting wrapped up in a mystery that she's trying to solve, and it's like a whole sort of Sherlock Holmes situation, and it's a lot of fun. It is set at a school, I believe also in the fall, and it is a murder mystery because someone ends up dead, and so there's also that aspect and like sort of a little bit of a spookiness, and I just absolutely loved it. Like it was so cool and like so much fun, and I love how she wove like the whole Sherlock Holmes story into like our real world. And I also just love the dynamic between Charlotte and Jamie. They are just such a compelling duo, and like the sort of tension between being friends and wanting to be more is just so present in this book, which I loved. This is the first book in an entire series about like these two characters. I think there's like 5 books in total, and I actually loved all of them, so highly recommend the series as a whole. All right, we're on to the final book on this list, and this is one of my all-time faves as well, and that is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. So I don't know what it is about this book. It is not particularly fall-like. It doesn't have a mystery. Well, it has a little bit of a mystery, but something about it just makes me think of fall, and I think it's mainly like the back to school element of this book. Basically, this follows our main character, Asa Holmes, who is this 16-year-old girl who has OCD, and so she has these very intense thought spirals constantly, and she's always on the verge of not really knowing if her present reality is real. And I love the way that this book is written, and I actually love John Green's writing in this one, and just the way that Asa sort of describes her mental illness and how it affects her life. But there is a plot element to this book where she and her friend Daisy are trying to solve this mystery of this missing and fugitive billionaire called Russell Pickett. And there's like this huge reward out for this mystery, so the two of them are sort of delving into this mystery. But I would say that the mystery is like a total subplot to this book. It really is about Asa and like her mental state and her trying to sort of open up into new experiences despite her mental illness. And one of those new experiences is the son of Russell Pickett, who is also looking for his father and who Asa becomes a lot more close with. And so there's a little bit of a romance there as well. But overall, just like the experience of reading this book and sort of connecting to parts of, you know, Asa's mental state and just seeing it sort of written on page and the way that John Green describes it, because he himself has OCD as well, that was just so interesting and such an incredible read in that way. Like, there were so many parts of the book, and as you can see, like I've tabbed a bunch of places in the book, but there were so many parts of the book where like there's a quote that just like hits you in the feels because it's so relatable, and it just like encapsulates what it feels like to be an anxious person at times. And so that was just like really validating to see, and I absolutely love this book. Like, to this day, it's one of my favorites, and something about it just feels like fall to me. I think it's like the slight mystery and also the idea of like new experiences, and also just like the way that it's written. I just love the way that it's written, and I can't explain it further than that, but it's really good. Highly recommend this one if you're looking for like a hard-hitting contemporary, because this one just like made me sob by the end. Alrighty, but those are all the books that I wanted to recommend today. 7 books that you should pick up for the fall. As I said, love this season so much. I hope to bring you more fall content coming very soon. My October TBR is probably going to be full of spooky books, so I'm very excited for that. And yeah, I just love all these books, so I think you should pick up all of them, and let me know if you have read any of them and what you thought of them, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any fall recommendations for me, please leave them down below, because I'm always on the hunt for more fall themed books. Thank you so much for watching. Go check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads in the description down below, and I will see you in my next video. So please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!